All right, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Chanel has decided to leave the building, so let me go on and close the door. This happens to me every Monday, y'all. That's why I have to wear matching pants now. Welcome into the room. Welcome to today's live. Today, y'all, we are going to be talking about influence. It's going to be a whole situation. And I wanted to make sure that if I was going to talk about influence, y'all know I'm a nerd. So I want to make sure that I have guests in the house who have the life experience, the lived experience, and because we fancy over here, Kishshana & Co., the book learning, to talk about what influence and leadership means, especially for women during Women's History Month. If this is the first time you are hanging out with me, I'm Kishshana Palmer. I'm CEO of Kishshana & Co., an organization development learning company. Our mission is to help everyday leaders just like you live well and lead well. And we do that through wellness. We do that through DEIB fortified foundational work. And we do that through lived practice, through good theory, and some pop culture, y'all, because that's how we like it over here in Kishshana & Co. And so you are hanging out with me today at lunchtime because you want to dig in to the series that we're doing. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Oh, y'all can still hear the echo? Okay. Let me turn down my volume just a little bit and see if that echo will help. All right. Give me a shout out if there's still an echo on y'all end. Okay. I don't hear the echo either. All right, y'all. So today we are going to be digging in on continuing to look at pop culture. So today we're moving from movies to TV. And I could not be more pleased than to bring up my good friend, Jarius Edens. Oh, thanks, y'all. Now that the echo was gone. Who is going to join me? And we're going to dig into one of her favorite shows and my favorite shows, Scandal in the House. Listen, Jarius, you know we can't hang out if we're not doing it with joy, okay? So
okay.
Jarius is, you are a multi-hyphenate. So let me be clear. When I was trying to put up your title today, I had to just capture it on the life coach because you do all of the things of life.
Yes.
But maybe you have multiple degrees. There's the instructional design. There is leadership. There are certifications and qualifications, 18 plus years of instructional design. You've been a life coach for 18 years. You are a gifted copywriter. And listen, the secret pen to the stars. She's not so secret because she's one of mine as well, y'all. One of my writing coaches. I just want y'all to know. And she will jump in a Google Doc in a minute and get me together when I request it. So this Jarius is the walking embodiment of this is what it's like to love what you do, to operate from, Jarius, how do you say it? From gifts, from talents, and from skills. And to be able to use those three modalities to be able to do great work in the world. And so I just couldn't be more happy than to have you hang out with us today. Shout out. Yes. Come on. The list going on and on. It goes on and on and on and on. Listen, mine too. And that's how we like it. But Jarius, can I just, before we jump into Millie, because you know Millie is an important character we're going to talk about on Scandal. Everybody thinks we're going to talk about Olivia Pope, but we're not doing that. That's obvious. Okay. No. So before we jump into that, like, what is it about women? And because, we're Black, I don't know if y'all have noticed. What is it about Black women in particular? I'm moving my mic and everything around y'all so y'all can see me and hear me, that we like to get our degrees and certifications and things and such. We like a good thing.
Well, listen, this is part of education. People always say like, oh my gosh, you have all these things, right? And they don't realize that that's what happens when Black women get into the educational industry, the realm. You first start out as a teacher, then they're like, oh, you should get this degree. Oh, you should do this. Next thing you know, you're in leadership, and now you should get this certification. Exactly. That's how it happens.
The other day,
that's me now. I'm like,
I need this. And I said, Kishshana, wait, hold on. Why do you need? Anytime we start with you know what I need? That's immediate opportunity, Jarius, for us to what? Do a check.
Yes, absolutely. Because sometimes we start coming from our head instead of our heart. And our head keeps telling us, well, maybe I should get a doctorate in this. Maybe I should get a PhD in this. maybe they'll take me more serious if I do this.
How many times have we started a sentence with maybe they'll take me more seriously if?
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen,
That's
first
what
of
we
all,
do.
we're not even 5 minutes in, and Jarius ready to drop the first dime.
That's
Maybe
what we do.
we should take ourselves seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we operate from a place of being able to, one, take ourselves seriously, but also hold that paradox of not taking ourselves so darn seriously? Okay, because we be uptight.
Because it really like connects to this whole scandal Melly Grant thing.
Mm.
You got to know the difference between influence and power.
So let's get into it. So let me see if I can do this right, y'all, because you know the internet's. On Instagram you're not gonna be able to see it because it's on StreamYard. But what I'm gonna do is show a real quick clip. Maybe I'll hold on it because we can narrate. I was gonna show a clip of Millie, but since we're working with two different sets, I don't want the folks to be left out. So let's break down who Millie Grant really is. So Millie Grant and Scandal. Shout out in the chat if y'all watched any version of Scandal. I know it got a little loosey goose toward the end, but if you were in at least the first 3 seasons of Scandal, then this conversation is for you. So I want y'all to drop it in the chat. Comments are coming in. Let me see in the chat. Oh, everybody says it sounds good now. Okay, they're seeing the broadcast. So Millie Grant was a superstar in her own right.
Mm-hmm.
Came out top of her class, right? Had her eyes set on a political career. Then her daddy set her up with this handsome, strapping young gentleman who had a bright career ahead. His daddy and her daddy got together and decided, who says arranged marriages don't still happen?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, she's had to hitch her wagon to him, and her aspirations she basically transferred them to him.
Mm-hmm.
Become president of the United States.
That's what happens when the horse becomes the bandwagon.
Wait a minute.
I mean, it's what happens when the horse becomes the bandwagon. I consider Millie the likable villain.
Yes.
She is the one who could have been a horse by herself. She could have had her own wagon. She did not have to be a bandwagon. She made a choice to do that.
Do you think that she felt like she had a choice?
I feel like oftentimes, especially Black women, we feel like we have to somehow curtail with people in order to get to where we need to be, because we're not going to be able to do it by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a societal thing. That's the pressure from society. That's not what we believe deep down in our hearts. But Millie would have had to go, is this country really going to vote for a woman president? Probably not. Right? And so she goes, out of my choices, which one am I really going to have the most influence? Probably being the background voice to the man up front.
Woo! I mean, there is a whole expression that says behind every good man is a good woman. And we've had to shift that expression and narrative over time and zhuzh it differently, because hello, can I just stand beside you? And sometimes I'm be in the front. And sometimes I'm like, I'm not doing the man thing. Like, we just have to figure this out differently. And so I think for Millie, it was so interesting to see early careers. Tara said on LinkedIn, Scandal is the series of life. So many lessons. Yes, and we are digging into this one character, into Millie Grant, because there was so much there about her ability to be able to lead through influence. So Millie had all the cards, right? Like, she knew that she had the instruction. She had the patent. Okay. She knew the formula. And yet she was not positioned and could not position herself early on in her marriage to be the one out front making the moves. Instead, she had to be the careless whisper in her partner's ear.
And we have to understand that that's how systemic, development works. We can be growing outside of the system, and the system still be affecting us.
Absolutely.
Right? It's kind of like roots growing under your house. right? The tree is big and beautiful and the roots are growing up, but it's like destroying the house. And now you have to cut down the tree or figure out how to make it work. That's what happens for women who are in leadership. They're doing their thing. They're like Millie, they have all these great pieces, right? And the system says, girl, if you don't hit your wagon
to this here
to
thing
this
over
right
here.
here, you're not going far. Not because you can't, but because we're not going to let you.
Absolutely.
And so we have to empower ourselves to understand how we can influence, even if we don't have the spotlight.
So how did Millie get into the influence game? Because I feel like at the beginning we only saw glimpses in season 1 because the focus really wasn't on her, right? It was on Olivia.
Mm-hmm.
And so how did Millie get into the influence game? Because she really, when we saw it in later seasons, was the one who was the puppeteer, which is why you said she's a likable villain.
Mm-hmm.
Really calling the shots and making moves in the background. So how did she, like, how do you imagine she was able to skillfully step into being able to be a puppeteer?
I think that's emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ability to be able to read a room.
Come on. Some of us don't know how to read a room.
How to read a personality versus a persona. Okay. When you're at the table, when you're in the boardroom, when you're on the Zoom with everybody, are you reading their personality or are you reading their persona? Because I think that's what she had that we don't notice until it's already happening. Okay.
You looked up, right? And you were like,
oh. Listen, this used to happen. I taught high school for 10 years, and it used to happen with student body president. Okay.
Ooh, tell me about that.
The popular person would win. And then the influential person would be the person telling the student body what to really do.
Shut up.
Right? It would be that influential friend in the on the backside of the student body president saying, hey, we should all wear black shirts tomorrow. And the student body president did not come up with that, did not think of that. But that's the emotional intelligence coming out that, ooh, I may be able to use a little empathy, add it with, right, a little bit of accountability, a little bit of knowledge. That's all those pieces of emotional intelligence to be able to say, ooh, that person feels a little nervous. They feel anxious when we start talking about this. So now I'm going to put a bug in their ear and influence them.
I love that. I love that. And that's exactly how that happened in Scandal. And it was so funny because, you know, we saw Millie being relegated publicly to caregiving, to the more visible aspects of being a mother, because there's 1,275 repeating parts that nobody ever sees below the surface. I think about that image where it looks like a glacier in the ocean, and it says, you know, people put different memes to it, but basically like what you think success is and what's really happening underneath. I was like, we need to do the motherhood one, child, because what you being a mama is and what really is happening. And she literally was moving mountains underneath the surface and at the same time looking at still water. But there was a point at which we started to see how her influence was having a real impact on the presidency, on all of the folks who were around him, on the decisions he was making. And so how can folks who are thinking about influence and leading from influence, and the reason I'm going to ask this question in some context is because a lot of times I get folks who come to me when I'm training teams, etc., who will say, Kishshana, you know, I'm not the CEO. I'm not the VP. Little old me in my cubicle at home in my dining chair. Like, I am trying to figure out, how do I actually have influence, or how am I actually able to make decisions, to lead up, to manage up? And I'm always talking with folks about the fact that understanding how to build social capital and understanding how to navigate influence in order to be able to get things done. So what do you say to folks who are like in the thick of it, but they don't have the title that says that they should be able to make decisions? How do they get to play?
First, you got to remember, it's not just little old you.
That's right.
Okay? Yeah. For the most part, it's big old you. Okay? And what you have to know is that power is title focused.
Woo, come on.
Okay? Influence is progress focused.
Come on, everybody, stop.
If you're looking...
Jarius, Jarius, we're not letting Jarius do that today, y'all. Jarius, if you follow her on Facebook or anything she writes, you're going to see the amount of the gems dropped. She likes to drop a gem and keep it going. She's just like, there is a mine of gems that I have in my, don't y'all worry. Okay, so when we're talking about the power of position, we're talking about one thing, and the power of influence is another. So that like folks have to really understand that progress aspect that has to do with influence. I love that breakdown.
Yes, mostly because the title and the position puts you in the room. It doesn't mean that you can make changes.
That's right.
Okay, I've sat at lots of tables, worked in Nashville with 85,000 students, and lots of people sat at the table, but they couldn't make any changes because they didn't have influence. And there were people who were not at the table who were making grand strides based on their influence because they had the community behind them. They had parents, teachers, educators, all that stuff. That's what happens, okay? So when you realize you don't have the title, but you have the influence, okay, you got to make sure that you're going to use your influence for good.
That's right.
Right? Because influence is one of those things where it can derail the whole project. Okay? If you've ever been the leader, which means you did have the title, you were the CEO, you were the VP, you were the exec, and you wonder why everybody is mumbling, it's because there's influence somewhere on the back end. You have to find the influence. Okay? Where's the mumbling coming from?
Where's the person that's going, well, where's the meeting after the meeting happening?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not, and so we want to use our influence for good because we don't always want to look at all this stuff as like what's happening bad or what's negative or, you know, we're trying to figure out who's the mole. We don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. We want to look at it like, if I know I have the influence, how am I going to shift what is happening in this organization, in this system, to make things better? And embrace your influence. If you don't have the title, it is okay. I promise you that the president is not making decisions by himself. He's sitting at a table of influencers. They are influencing his decision. Scandal showed us this through media, through film. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The president is never making the decision.
The president was leaning in. And then had to respond to the thoughts and the research and the intuition and sometimes the manipulation and all the things of other people. So the president in that regard was constantly in reaction mode, really. Yep. And not really in proactively being able to think those things out because he just didn't have time. I'm just welcoming everybody in on Instagram who has been hanging out with us. We are talking today. Jarius Edens and I are talking about influence versus title. And we're talking about using Scandal and specifically Melly Grant and how you lead with influence today. So drop your questions or comments in the chat. We are watching them so that you can actively participate in a shot of vitamin K today. So Jarius, listen, you done broke this whole thing down. So one of the things that I realized that was happening to me early in my career before I really understood like what social capital means, what it means to like build up a reserve, a bank, you know, deposits of goodwill, of folks being able to say, I got you, of folks being able to say, I vouch for her. She's on it. That's basically what we can give fancy definitions to social capital, but that is basically what it is at the crux of it. And so what is so interesting is that I used to be resentful of the amount of what felt to me, how I experienced it at the time, of dipping and diving and manipulated and maneuverations and hollerations, and there was so much hateration in the dancing retreat. And so it didn't occur to me early enough that actually building that influence muscle was a necessary decision-making skill and really helping to build that executive function. I actually initially saw it as like a detriment, a deterrent to HOV laying in my way to the top. But what you're saying right now is I had it all twisted. Young Kish had it twisted.
Yes, because really what we should be doing is looking to gain the influence first. And then seek the title. Okay. Influence, then power. What happens is going for power first is like working your top part of your body at the gym and leaving your leg.
Oh, you talking about a prison body? Wait a minute. Going for the title is like having a prison body. You better shut up.
Yes. You got big old top, no bottom.
Just swole and chicken legs.
Right? But where do our strength come from most of the time? Most of the time, our strength comes from our bottom. It comes from our legs. If you've done any sort of fitness or anything, guess what they say? They say, pick it up with your legs. Right?
Get that core engaged.
Yeah, they say, use your bottom half. Okay.
Yes,
right? But for the most part, we like to get swole on the top and we don't have anything on the bottom.
Woo-hoo.
And so when it's time to do some heavy lifting, we kind of got it up there, but we can't even walk with it.
Come on, them degrees got us swole.
Yeah, we big up here. We got a whole bunch of degrees on our shoulders.
Come on.
But when it's time to move some things, we can only go like 2 steps at a time before we're like, ooh, my legs are shaking.
Wait a minute.
Well, if you focus on your legs are like the influence. Build your leg muscles. Walk a little bit in somebody else's shoes.
It's a whole thing. Oh, in the chat, we see largest muscle is the legs. It's what is carrying us. Absolutely.
Yes.
And we
absolutely.
Also, look, that's the word. Somebody's laughing at the prison body. It's true. We don't want prison bodies in leadership.
But that's what happens, especially as Black women.
Time.
Yes, we get all these degrees. We're holding up all this stuff on our shoulders. Imagine if you had all of your certifications and your degrees in your backpack and you're carrying them with you. When really, instead of carrying the degrees and the certifications and the qualifications, which we do need if you're going to, right? If you're going to move ahead.
Just willy-nilly, just waking up one day and
just
decided. And we see
exactly
happen in these streets. So be clear, we're not saying poo-poo because we worked very hard.
Very hard.
And multiple certifications.
Absolutely.
Look here, look. And the scars that came with it, okay? Come on.
Absolutely.
Scars.
What I'm saying is take the degrees off of your back, kind of like Millie taking the path to politics off of the front end and saying, let me put it back here on the back side. So instead of carrying all of your weight, your degrees and certifications and things on your back, how about we take that and we work on your influence? Influence starts out with connection. Are you connecting with people? You do not have influence if you do not connect with other people.
That's right.
Okay? Because connection is the foundation to influence. All right? After you get a connection, then you can change people's perspective. You can give them something fresh to look at.
That's right.
Okay? Y'all, somebody just rang my doorbell, but I don't know who that is.
And look, and my dog is like Chanel's like, who is it? I mean, listen, life is happening fast. That's why this is a lot, ain't it?
It's happening to me. But we got to look at influence that way. That's what Millie was doing in Scandal. In the very first season, she is building her influence muscle. She's showing up. She ain't showing out though.
No, she was giving looks, but you could always tell she had something going on back there.
There you go.
It was, and many of us don't recognize early enough, because I want to say that we recognize it at some point, but many of us, and shout out in the chat if this has happened to y'all. particularly when you were early stage career and you stepped into the place, you weren't necessarily scanning the room for who was working the room. Literally, you were scanning the room for who was in the front of the room. And so I'll give a really quick story, Dre. So when I was in college, I was in this program called SEL, Sponsors for Education Opportunity. Shout out to them. And there's a program that put underrepresented young people on Wall Street. And so I was in their investment banking cohort, and I was, about 18 years old or something like that. And I remember, first of all, everybody thinks I'm an extrovert. I'm not, right? We would just be under the covers in the bed. And so they were like, come to this networking event, which is my version of personal hell. Walk into a big room full of people I don't know and roll up on folks at random three tables and two tops to have useless conversation. Joy. That is not my ministry, y'all. Okay. So I decided I was not going to do that. And now I can say it now because I'm a long alum. And so I would get to some of our cocktail hours early, because I realized very early on, maybe my first or second session, because they were telling you got to meet these people, you got to get these business cards, you got to talk to these folks so that you can get on their calendar so you can get your job at the end of the summer internship. It was stressful, okay? That is stress for me. So I got there when people were still setting up, putting out the shrimp bowls, which I love, and then told them to stand next to. I took the shrimp early because I don't eat and network at the same time. Things you learn when you are in college, okay, y'all? And I remember always talking to every single administrative assistant, because they were always there for their senior VPs, their chief executive, their whatever, who's going to speak to us for 5 minutes. But they were there for at least the first hour and change, just milling about, making sure things were where they needed to be. And I learned quickly that even if I didn't have one conversation with any of the executives, because I was not jockeying to be the 1 of 20 trying to get their ear, I was always able to get a meeting, because guess who I knew? The admins that booked their calendars. Hello?
Yep.
And so I was able to make connections, get early on mentors when I was in finance before I switched to working in nonprofit, because I had access to the folks who worked the room. Y'all see how we did that? So you got to be able to you said it earlier, to read a room, that emotional intelligence. And at 18, 19, I don't even know, I think I knew what those words meant, but I did know you always have to be nice to everybody in the room. Yes, come on. Zamara said the gatekeepers. Yes.
Yep.
And so how do folks who have tiptoed away from making connections, so much so that that's the muscle that they have that's strong, how do they now start to build that connection muscle? Because the stories we done told ourselves, we don't like people, we're just here to work, I'm just trying to be in the front. How many times have we met somebody who you thought you were making a connection with, and you realize, oh, you were just trying to sell me something so you could skip me on the line? Like, what's going on? So how do we help folks who haven't been as adept at building up that connection muscle start to build it? What did Melly teach us? And what did you, because I know you know all the things, but what do we learn? How do we do it?
You know what? We really learned this by taking what we've been taught and shifting it. For example, we've been taught to show up and show out.
Yes.
Just show up. That's where you stop taking yourself so seriously.
Just show up. You don't have to
show up. You don't have to show out. Sometimes it's just listening. Listen to the conversations. Listen to how they communicate. Okay? As Black women, we code switch all the time. All right? This is not about code switching,
which is exhausting.
It is. This is about shifting your approach. Instead of leaning in, lean back a minute. Lean back a minute. Because we are known to lean in and give it to them.
Come on.
Take a minute. Lean back. Yes. Lean back for a minute and say, I'm going to hold my best right here. Kind of like Melly. I'm going to hold my best to season 3.
That's it. Because that is when she started to peak up. And you're like, she been behind this all the time? Wait a minute.
There you go. Sometimes you have to lean back for a second and say, that's where that reading the room comes in. Let me read and see who's doing what, who has the influence. Maybe it's me. Okay? If you find people coming to your desk and asking you for your perspective, you might be the one with influence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you find people in the chat asking you questions, you might be the one with influence.
And a lot of times, Jarius, think about this. As we get more seasoned in our professional career, some of us become resentful.
Oh, yes.
About the influence we carry. Everybody's always coming to me for everything. Everybody always wants something from me. And that might be true. And you might feel put upon. But how do we take that energy and shift that?
Listen, you have to use your influence. Okay? You got to know for sure that your influence is what is impactful.
Yes.
Okay? In today's world, intellect is like dime a dozen. Everybody's on Google. Everybody's like taking classes.
Everybody's a thought leader.
Right? Everybody's taking classes at Yale and everybody's taking classes at Harvard. It's like, so intellect is not really the foundation. Really, influence is now. And you got to know that your influence is impactful. And you have to know how you're going to use your own influence to reach your goals.
I love that. Okay, so we have a question. So Resource Gigi says, what do you do when you are the smallest in the room?
You are never the smallest in the room.
Woo-hoo.
Okay.
So we're just going to stop that there. The answer is you are never the smallest.
Because if you are in the room, okay, you are big enough to be there. All right. If you feel like you are the smallest in the room, that's the moment when you lean back a minute and you evaluate what you're seeing. This person might be an executive, might be a VP, but they aren't super organized. Their administrative assistant is making sure everything is taken care of, so they're not perfect. Right? The CEO is doing this. This person sitting here is doing this. And so we realize, oh, I'm not the smallest in the room. I may not be the most magnified in the room, but I'm not the smallest. And so when you feel like you are the smallest, take a minute and lean back and evaluate that at this table is humanity. Everybody here is human. Everybody has their weaknesses. All of us have a half, okay, in our percentage, right? I always say, I'm 95 and a half.
Come on.
Okay, because the half is my petty. I'm half petty.
Well, I'm like 99.
Okay.
Won't do. Okay, because I'm running trying to make 100. Listen.
And so when you feel like you're the smallest, take a minute, lean back, look at everybody as humans. Okay? They all have weaknesses that are sitting there at that table. Okay? And if you're sitting at the table, you are worthy enough to be sitting at the table.
And there's power in observation. I think that's one of the things that I had to learn as somebody who is verbose and is quick on a trigger with something to say, and my mind is running ahead. Sometimes I have to slow myself down to make sure I'm actually actively listening.
Yep.
And so there is power in observation. There is power in being when you are the quietest one in the room, of folks turning to you and saying, Jarius, what do you think about that? And you being able to say, you know what, I'm just taking it all in.
Yeah,
here are the 2 or 3 things that I've heard that I want to noodle on, and would love an opportunity to circle back on that. Diane, am I going to be connecting with you about that? Or Kishshana, let me circle up with you this week if that's all right about that. I'll circle back a note when notes go out in the email. Like, it's okay to step up. That doesn't have to be in moment if you have taken the time to really assess what is being said and then what is not being said but is being actioned.
Yes. And if you are considering smallest as quieter, okay, observation is your biggest tool, as Kishshana says. And then your next thing, okay, is to identify the archetypes you have in the room.
Yes, break it down. Because
Who's
Millie
the
was good at
talker?
that. Okay. When you
Yes.
talk about Jake, when you talk about Fitz, when you talk about Olivia Pope, when you talk about everybody she had around her, she understood the archetypes of the people. So break down the archetypes that are typically in the room.
Okay. So you often have a visionary in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's the person who has the idea, but they can't quite execute it. Okay. Right. And then you have the speaker, the person who is taking the visionary's ideas and explaining them to the group.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then you have the observer. They're either taking notes, they're really quiet, they're kind of sitting back. Okay. Now, let me say this. Here's a secret. Normally, that person has the influence.
Ooh.
The person who's sitting back the quietest, okay, who's taking the notes, who's the observer, they usually have the visionary's ear. Okay. Sometimes, like Kishshana said, it's the administrative assistant that's standing at the door. Okay. Or it's somebody else on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that visionary, you have the speaker, you have the observer, you have a builder. That's the person who goes out and tells everybody else what just happened at the table. Right? They're like, and girl, we're going to do this. And then we're going to do this on the team. And then this is going to happen. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
That's my town crier.
All right. And you have to shift your perspective on that. It's not really somebody who's carrying the news. It's not really a gossiper.
Yes.
It's really somebody who's building the momentum for what you're about to do.
Oh, I love that. I love that approach.
So you have to make sure that whatever you're saying at the table, you don't mind the builder sharing. It's okay if they share it. They're building the momentum for what you're about to do. And then you have a doer at the table, somebody who's writing down the steps. Step 1, I need to go and create a folder for all the documents, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then you get to sit back and kind of figure out where you fit into that. Okay. Am I part of the observer team where I sit back, I take notes, I'm listening, actively listening?
That's right.
Right? I am examining how people are reacting to the content, the news, the information, the changes. Okay. Am I the doer, the person who's ready to do steps? All right.
Yeah, sometimes we have different roles on that team.
Yes.
On a team at different times, which is why I think one of the things that, that came up in my mind for me, and Precious says in the chat, a builder equals builds momentum, which is, she said, that's gold. She put the light bulb up for that, which is so true. One of the things that I think is important around skills building, right? Because a lot of times we hire for skills. And then so we end up getting into a career where we focus on our skills and we don't build up our talents and stuff. But it is actually a real talent to be able to move between your skills area and your talent area. And
absolutely,
you can be a specialist in understanding how to go very deep, to be focused in and down into one or two particular areas where you get your joy, your energy. But none of us can escape having some generalist maneuvers where we have to be able to understand that our position might change depending on the particular situation we're in. And we saw that with Millie going into season 3 and season 4, where she had to really step up. So now you see a woman who has been whispering and been frustrated and been wringing her hands, but whispering and having this conversation and that conversation. Now she's starting to be more bold. Now she's like, look, I'm not dealing with that mess anymore, because clearly that you're not taking my advice and I'm seeing what's happening. I'm reading the room. So then she stepped forward and had built enough foundational bricks to then leverage her influence to move into a stated position of power.
Yeah, she built enough influence. She
Yep.
she initially started out as the observer, watching. Then she became the speaker. I'm going to speak out about what is happening and say, listen, I'm not going to do this, right? And then she started becoming a visionary. You guys are going to do what I told you to do. You're going to execute this. Now you're on my team.
Exactly. That's right. That's
But
right.
that comes from building the influence. That comes from communicating with all the people on the team initially.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That used to be one of my things as an educator. The first few days of class, I'm like, oh, y'all, we're just going to like talk and stuff. That was for me to figure out which one of you students can derail
My whole
my lesson.
Exactly.
You can derail my whole
Self-preservation
lesson.
at work.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then when I moved into leadership in Nashville, it was the same thing. Let me take a few weeks to go to the different schools and hang out in classrooms and see what's happening, because I want to see which one of you has the ability to gather everybody, corral us, get us all happy and excited. Who's the builder? Who gets momentum moving in here?
Right. That's right.
I had to take a little bit to see it, because I couldn't just walk in as a visionary and say, you are going to do this
Mm-hmm.
because I said so. Well, then you have the observer and the builder and the speaker following the person who has the most influence.
Absolutely.
Okay. And we build that influence by communicating, okay, utilizing our emotional intelligence, leaning back a little bit more than we lean in,
Mm-hmm.
showing up but not feeling like we have to show out.
Come on, show up, but don't show out. Woo! Listen,
Yeah.
y'all, get these runs today. Get these runs. If you're not at minute 42, I need you to be listening and jotting down. If your notebook is not filled right now with literally the steps. And Jarius, one of the things that I think is so critical that just popped in my mind as you were running our steps back is what you might do learn around connection, around observation, around show up but not show out in one role. You might not get to action it until another role.
There you go. Exactly. So when you are in a position, let's say we're going to go back to the resource Gigi, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say you feel like you're the quietest person in the room. You're kind of like not magnified. I don't want you to go in there and show up and show out, because now that's how the resentment builds.
Yes.
They say, oh, she wants to be at the front of the show. Yes. Just give it all to her. But now you have the load without the influence. And we want to make sure that we are living a balanced, well, oiled, and centered life. Right? Whether it's professional or personal.
That's right. That's that joy. That's that reaching for.
That's the joy.
Even in the way that we've just been talking about how to understand the building blocks of leading with influence, it's coming from a place of joy, because you're not like, oh, hell.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who I got to talk to now? When we start to have that emotional response, that's a good indication that our body is saying, alert, alert.
Yep.
Either you might not be positioned in the right role. You might not be in the right environment. It might be a combination of the two. It might be none of the above. And something is happening external to your job that is making coming to work and showing up and not showing up at work a huge chore. Mm-hmm. So to me, one of the things I've learned from you and thinking about leading with joy is really approaching each of the modalities that you get to be an active participant in your own life in with a fresh eye and a fresh perspective. And what do we have here?
Mm-hmm. And you get to ask yourself, what will bring me joy in this season?
Yes.
Maybe in this season, being a speaker, either in my life, that means speaking up, being bold, and sharing my desires, right? Putting my goals out in the forefront. That may be the season for joy for you. And then in the next season, the joy may be being the observer. I just get to lean back, y'all,
and just pay attention.
And pay attention. And if you need me, you come ask me questions.
That's right.
Right? We got to be okay with being able to be steady and have people come to us. I call that the lighthouse effect.
Woo!
We are the lighthouse.
I'll leave the light on for you.
Yes, we are the lighthouse. You guys are the boats. If you need me, if you need light, okay?
Yes.
Come see what get the light, come to the resource. But I'm not Coast Guard. I'm not running out in the middle of the storm.
You're not search and rescuing right now.
I'm not.
And a lot of us feel professionally that that's what we need to do to be seen.
Yes.
So much so that Tamara has a question. How much does influence stem from helping others, i.e. servant leadership?
It's a large portion. It's a large percentage because leadership is servanthood. And servanthood is not always serving someone as much as it is being ready to serve their questions. Okay. So for example, I'm going to use my kids as an example here.
Go on.
I often build a kitchen menu list, pantry based on how they can help themselves.
Yes.
Versus me making every meal. That's a no. I'm not making every meal. Right? As a leader, you should have your resources, your ideas, your modalities, your theories, all of those things, your case studies, they should be there ready when your organization, your people need you to serve them. It's not you whipping up a meal when they come to you.
Wait a minute, that hurt my whole belly. So what you're saying is, I don't have to be a just-in-time leader anymore. If everybody's familiar with the just-in-time learning, just-in-time production, it is that things do not get built, produced, executed against until you absolutely need them. And what you're saying is part of being able to preserve, being able to serve, and to be of service is to have some foundational pantry items.
Yes.
Your leadership pantry.
Exactly. Because that's such a huge part of influence, is that you got to have some of that stuff already there. All right? Because influence it's not as complex,
yes,
as it is deep. All right? Influence is like the 20-foot part of the pool versus the 3-foot, right? And so because servanthood is such a large portion of influence, you need to be ready when someone comes to jump into your 20-foot side of the pool, right? They jump in and you're like, oh my gosh, can you swim?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? What you really want is for them to already know, okay, listen, she has life rafts ready for me.
That's right.
She had a lifeguard over here.
That's right.
She had some rails on the side if I can just make it to the rail.
You slide into the edge of the rail. You're like, how many of us have been in situations at work where people managers, where we are treading into deep water, y'all, and all we want to do is hold on to the edge of to the side. Just hold on.
And so because servanthood is such a big part, go ahead and have some of your pantry items, some of your signature pieces, okay, some of your life-saving tools ready for them, so that you are not turning your servanthood,
absolutely,
okay, into overwhelming serving.
And that's where the depletion happens. That's when the joy sucking activities occur. That's when we start to do things that are not in service of being able to provide folks the opportunity to be able to help themselves. That's when we move away from coaching to enabling.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's a really, really important distinction. And listen, y'all, as we're wrapping up, Millie got it, because the reason we love her and say that she's a lovable villain is because even though we ain't like some of the moves she made, the maneuvers, we were like, whoa. Okay. Every time we'd be like, who did she get killed? And who did she pull out? And how did she become president? And who's off the ballot? And she got divorced. I mean, the number of ways that she had to make a move. You thought that was a move that she made, like a quick move, but no, it was. It felt quick, but it was long time. It was a long time coming. And oftentimes, when we're leading from influence, we are in a longer engagement and exchange.
Yes, it is the long game. That's for sure.
That's right. So, Jarius, listen, we could keep talking about this and Millie to the days long, but I want folks to know. When they are coming to talk with you, there are a few ways that folks can really plug in and get some of the goodness. I already told y'all that Jarius is in my kitchen cabinet of trusted advisors. When I have to put massive pen to paper, she is one of the people I go to and say, help me organize myself, because she just gets it. She just gets me. So she's able to get in my brain. So this is a Kish approved. So when you are working with folks, who do you work with, and what types of tools through your services are you offering for folks right now?
Okay, so let me start by saying I initially learned about this influence being a copywriter. And as a copywriter, I end up being the most influential person on the team, because I have the ability to craft the words that are going to be used to influence the people.
That's right.
And they don't have to see my face.
You're like, so, can I like it like that?
I actually don't have to put makeup on every day.
I just want to let y'all know. I was like, and we have a podcast episode about season 3, 2, and even then I had to be like, so about that, you want to come on? She's like, on camera, you know?
On camera? Okay, so
that's how you started. Influence through being a copywriter, so that the gift of the pen and being able to move people.
That's how I was able to do it. I initially work with women, professional and personal, who are looking to shift how they work, okay, and making influence their impact versus focusing so much on power. Okay, that's why I call myself the happy coach.
That's right.
I want you to be happy first, then healthy, okay? And then you can do all the other stuff.
Come on.
All right? And so I've worked with entrepreneurs, mamas who said, okay, I'm going to leave my career behind and be a full-time mom, but still they wanted to focus on their purpose. They still wanted to have influence. They wanted to do things in the community. And so I now work with business owners, entrepreneurs who want to have influence more than they focus on their power, which means they aren't leading with the credentials. They aren't leading with, let me tell you what position I had. They're leading with, I want to communicate with you. I want to engage with you. Right? If that's you, then you'd see me over at Creative Copy.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
Creative Copy, right?
That's
if
right.
You are looking for a place, a safe space to talk more about how you can be impactful, how you can lead with joy, okay? How you can get out of that showing out kind of energy, okay? Then the happy coach is the person you need. And that's at my first and last name.com.
I Love it. Listen, y'all, jump on all of it. First of all, I'm like, bring all the tithes into the storehouse, also known as coins, also known as get your life, also known as in order to be happy. Y'all see how happy I am all the time? Hello. And so, and listen, it is so critical that we continue to refine because some of us are seasoned in the pot of life, and we think we've got it all figured out, me included. And yet, we are inviting you into an opportunity to learn how to do things differently, to refine the way that you have done things so that you can move into a new season of impact with different results. And if Melian teaches nothing, that was the perfect example from being a housewife to the president. Okay. And that you don't have to take the road that has been trodden in order to be able to get there, nor do you need to be cutting down fresh trees in order to do it. There's other ways to be able to have impact. So, Jarius, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Today. Listen, y'all, on Instagram, people are clapping it like this was the thing. Give Jarius all of the shout outs and props and check her out because it is such a gift for y'all and for me to be able to have amazing, amazing humans like Jarius in our orbit as a part of the KISHSHANAVERSE, as a part of the work that we're doing here at the Shot of Vitamin K, where we are helping you to live well and lead well. Shout out to everybody who's just joining in. Watch the replay in a couple of minutes. If you are watching this on a replay, all I need y'all to do is say replay in the house. Yep. And if there are folks that you want Jarius and I to talk to, let us know. Hello. If there are folks you think need to be on the Shot of Vitamin K, let us know. Jarius, I'm not going to hold you because, I can sit in and chit-chat all day, but I'm going to wrap up with the audience. You hang out in the studio below, okay? And so, listen, friends, on Instagram, I love you with the love of all of the Lord, okay? And if you don't believe in him, that's okay. I love you with the Lord of the light and everything else you got. And I just love you in general. I will see you next Monday for another Shot of Vitamin K. All right, y'all. So, we are wrapping things up. I'm so excited about life. That was such a powerful, powerful, powerful session. Listen, ain't it good, y'all? Where we just to keep getting good folks on board who are just excited to share how to live well and lead well differently. That is what a Shot of Vitamin K is all about, okay? And so as we continue to move through the end of Women's History Month, we're going to continue to explore movies, shows where women are doing things differently, are approaching leadership differently, and we're going to continue to look at topics. If y'all love this, drop it in the chat. Say, Kish, more, please. Okay, let this be the buffet of really good information. If you are wondering how you can work with me and my team, oh my gosh, y'all, please check out KISHSHANACO.com. That's my website. Whether you are looking to me to come and be a speaker or host at your next big event, y'all know I'm real good on stage, okay? And I'm real cute. If you are looking for me or any one of my team members to come in as a trainer or coach for your leadership and management opportunities, challenges, points of inflection, if you're looking for a little one-on-one time where I can give you all of my VIP goodness, and y'all, I'm opening up Callaloo Studios here in New York City for in-person VIP days. Y'all, with full-on catering from Callaloo Studios Craft Kitchens, okay? We have a whole operation going on over here. If you are looking to connect with me, you can do so either in this video below, but definitely at KISHSHANACO.com. I am super excited to be able to continue to serve you. You want to keep learning with me, then you learn.kishanaco.com. That's where you can get all of your Choose Your Own Adventure courses and classes. Make sure you're connected with me on social at Kishshana Palmer, probably the only Kishshana in the world, spelled with 2 SHs, and you can thank my Jamaican daddy. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel because that's where you're going to get all of my free 99 lessons and learning in 15 minutes or less on relationships at work. And if you're ready to book a VIP day with me, you make sure you do that at kishco.info/VIP strategy because it's all about making sure you focus so you can get stuff done and stop making to-do lists and t-shirts that say you are. I'm looking at the comments one more time. Yes, come on, keep serving it. Yes, more please. I love it. More please. And if y'all have connections, even if the connection is you, if we're connected, I want to talk with you, my friends. Okay, this is an exciting time for us to be able to learn together and grow together here at Kishshana and Co. All right, y'all, I'm heading on out. And as I head on out, I'm going to leave you with the best tidbit of it all for today, because Jarius was just delicious. The juice, the sauce, the it. If you are a Black professional, woman, identifying femme, all of the good things, and you work in, for, or around the social sector, so that's CSR, event planners, all of my fundraisers. If you work in program, operations, IT, you work for a foundation, you work for a search firm that searches for folks like me, then I want to see you at the Rooted Retreat 2022 Bloom, and I'm dropping it here. This is your last day to be able to book your spot and guarantee that you have a spot, because once the seats open up, y'all, we're only doing 100, y'all. I have to tell you. Once they're gone, they're gone. So I'll see y'all next week. I'm leaving you here with Bloom, and I will be talking to y'all real soon, y'all. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.